Welcome to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost with me, Charly Leetham. If you're a small business owner looking to simplify technology and get real, actionable advice from someone with 35 years of IT experience, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll dive into tools and systems like email, CRM, marketing and tracking, and I'll break them down into bite-sized tips you can use straight away. Your time is valuable, so let's get straight to the point. It's time to work smarter, not harder. Rise and Shine. It's your daily dose of business tech inspiration with me, Charly Leetham. Episode number 590 today. Wow, we're moving towards 600, aren't we? We're going to be talking about what HTTPS is and why it works behind that padlock icon. I hate that title. It'll be something different, I'm sure, by the time I publish this. But let's talk about what HTTPS is and how it works to a degree. I don't want to get too techie, but I do want to give you some more grounded understanding in what it all means and why it's important to you and why people say you need to be HTTPS and you need to have SSL and all of it. Okay, so HTTPS stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, HTTPS. It is basically your standard web protocol, HTTP, with SSL, secure socket layer. Yeah, secure socket layer locked onto it. And that's why it has a padlock. It means that the data between your device and your website is encrypted or scrambled so that no one can read it in transit. Now, I use the term encrypted very loosely there, and I'm going to get into it in a bit, I hope. If I don't, I have done episodes on SSL and why it's important and how it works before, and I actually explain that. But how does this actually work? Because this is something that people get a little confused about. Like, what is it? You don't just go and turn on SSL and it works. There's a few things that you need to do. HTTPS or SSL requires that there is a certificate and key pair, digital files that are stored on your computer, on your server, that says, hey, I need to know, this is who I am. The certificate is the site's ID card. When you visit a secure site, it shows your browser a digital certificate proving it's the real site. Now, there are things in that certificate that prove that it is the real site. That certificate, whilst you can get self-signed SSL, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to say self-signed SSL. If someone says to you, oh, it's a self-signed SSL, don't use it. You need to make sure you've got a proper SSL certificate, a signed SSL certificate, not a self-signed SSL certificate. The certificate is issued by a certificate authority, what we call a CA. These are people like DigiCert, GlobalSign, Let's Encrypt, even Cloudflare issues its own certificates. They act like a passport office for the internet, and only they can issue these certificates. So when your certificate when your site holds up its certificate and says, I'm real, your browser or whatever is connecting to the site says, oh, you're giving me that certificate. Let me go out to the certificate provider, check that number against the secure list we've got. Yep, that number works. Yes, that's right. We agree that you are the site that you say you are. That's really important to understand. Understand that when you get a certificate for your site, when we say we're installing an SSL certificate, it's a digital file that gets installed. But understand that certificate itself is actually issued by an independently audited third party. They are audited and they can be removed if they misbehave or they've done something wrong. There is actual accountability within this whole certification process. It's not just someone coming along and saying, oh, I'm going to issue certificates now. Here's a certificate and here's a certificate and here's a certificate. They actually have to go through a process to be able to do that, and then they have to be audited regularly to be able to maintain being able to do that, which is why when you go to get an SSL certificate, you've sometimes got to jump through a few hoops to be able to prove that you are who you say you are to be able to use that certificate. Once the certificate is verified, the browser and the server then have a quick chat digitally and say, oh, how are we going to do this? And agree on an encryption keys or a cipher to say, yep, when I'm talking to you, I'm going to use this code when I send you data, and you're going to be able to read that code and say, yep, this data is the data that I want it to be. So this is what I was talking about. It's like it is encrypted. It's encrypted done. It's not the data itself is encrypted. It's the connection from the server that you're connecting to and the device that you're using is encrypted. There's end-to-end encryption, not in transit encryption. What that means is that then forms a really secure tunnel, or a secure tunnel between your computer and the server you're communicating to. Your traffic goes up and down it, and it's really hard for anyone outside of the net, outside of that tunnel, to be able to intercept the data stream and decode it. It is far easier if you don't have SSL installed. It is far easier for someone to be able to inject themselves into the data stream and pull off data and see what it says. And if you're sending usernames, if you're sending passwords, they can pull them off and have a look at them. If you are putting it down an SSL tunnel, it is considerably more difficult for them to do that. Note my language here, not impossible. Why do I not say it's impossible? Because nothing is absolute. Nothing is absolute. This is a really, really secure method, but nothing is absolute. It doesn't mean that there won't be a mishap somewhere, or someone won't be a really, really smart cookie and be able to work out how to get around it. Okay, so that's what a certificate is. That's how it's issued, or who issues it. That's what that whole process does. Why do we need to worry about having SSL or HTTPS on our sites? Why do we want to worry about having that little padlock, preferably a green padlock, appear in our address bar, our browser bar, to say that we are a secure site? Couple of things. First one is customer trust. If you've got that padlock there, we are training users on the internet. It's just happening with continual education. They're looking to say, oh yeah, that's secure. That means that my data between the server and me is being sent in a secure manner. So there's that trust coming. They're going to be more likely to want to interact with you. If anyone has watched anything I've done, you'll know that I use the know you, like you, trust you model of marketing. They're going to start trusting you because you're using a trusted process. Believe it or not, using HTTPS or SSL is actually really good for your search engine rankings. I know, sounds weird, but several years ago, Google actually made a policy that if you weren't using SSL, if you didn't have HTTPS enabled, they were going to be de-ranking your sites. They were going to be deprioritizing your sites in the rankings. So having SSL enabled is an absolute must these days to being able to get into the search engine rankings and to start climbing them. Security is, of course, another one. I'm not going to say it's the third one. Some of you might consider it's the first one, trust being as first, security being second, or whichever way, but security is the other one. So people are going to trust us because it's a secure process. It prevents eavesdropping and tampering with your site's data or with your confidential data in transit. Where is it used? It's used everywhere, absolutely everywhere. If you go to a website, it's HTTPS now. It should be HTTPS. Particularly, it should be used when you are transferring usernames and passwords. When you are making online payments, it's an absolute must to have SSL enabled. If you are sending email, you should be using it. You don't want people being able to interact. To be able to get into your email while it's in transit and take that data out and have a read of it, because they can do it. If it's in the clear, email is sent in the clear, if people can decode that data and read it. So you don't really want that being transmitted out in the clear. What are the things that you should look for, or what are some of the pitfalls of using SSL and HTTPS? Expired certificates. If your site if your certificates are only valid for a certain amount of time. Now, I mentioned a couple of providers there. Who did I mention? DigiCert, Global Sign, Let's Encrypt, and Cloudflare. I think Let's Encrypt does a 90-day certificate. I don't know about the other two. I can tell you that with Cloudflare, with their base level certificate, which is just a server, an origin server certificate. Don't worry about that jargon so much, but it's the certificate we put on a server that communicates with Cloudflare. So Cloudflare manages the SSL out into the internet. We've got a certificate that sits in the back end that connects from Cloudflare to our server. Cloudflare being a CDN, for anyone who hasn't caught up with my podcast previously, that can last for 15 years. I can issue those for up to 15 years, which is fine if I'm not moving the site. But an expired certificate will create warnings being displayed. And in some cases, some browsers will actually stop the site being displayed. They will put up a message saying, nah, the certificate on this site has expired. We're not going to display the site. You have to do some gymnastics to be able to get in to see it then. Misconfigured HTTPS. So you can. This is probably one of the biggest issues that I see when I pick up new sites, or when I pick up sites that require a little bit of support and maintenance and a bit of TLC. They've been around just long enough that, they've been around long enough that they've moved from the environment where we never used SSL to the environment where we use SSL. A lot of the coding on the site has hard coded in the HTTP : / prefix, which means that when the site displays, you get this thing. Some of your images just won't show. You just get these things saying, no, we can't show that image. It's insecure content. We won't show it. Sometimes the site just gets blocked because it's got what we call mixed content or insecure content. It just won't show it. No. Mixed content, we don't show the site. And sometimes you just end up with a really strange result because you've got a mix of HTTPS and HTTP content altogether. When I go in and fix those sorts of things up, I actually go in and I do a search for anything that's got HTTP : / on it, find it, work out if I can change it across to HTTPS : / and fix it that way. You can do that. You can put on, if you're running WordPress, you can put on WordPress plugins to do it. I prefer not to. Anyone who has followed my podcast for any length of time will know that I prefer not to use plugins where I can at all avoid it. And this is it's a one-time fix. You do it once, you don't have to do it again. And I mentioned self-signed certificates at the beginning, and I said don't use them. Self-signed certificates are typically free because you go to your server and say, issue me a certificate, but they're signed by yourself. They're signed by your server. There is no independently audited authority to say that certificate is what it is. And what's happened is it was fine in the early Wild West days and Wild West frontier days of the internet. That was all fine. Now, though, because there are so many scams around, because it's so easy to just pretend that you're someone you're not, the browsers themselves, the applications themselves will actually trigger warnings and say, this is a self-signed certificate. We're going to treat it as insecure. So yes, you can use a self-signed certificate. Yes, you can go onto a lot of servers and say, just issue a certificate. My recommendation is just don't do it. If you want a free certificate that works, use Let's Encrypt. Move your traffic across to Cloudflare and use their processes to do it. If you want to pay for a certificate and get different levels of insurance and stuff through it, then go through one of the CAs, the certificate authorities, and buy through there. Okay, so what are the takeaways from that? This is all part of the know you, like you, trust you model. This is a part of this is saying to someone, yes, I'm trustworthy. I run my site using a certificate that is provided by an auditable, independent third party. It really does have some practical security measures associated with it, in that I'm going to use the term again, it encrypts the tunnel. It encrypts the connection between the server and the end device so that the data being sent up and down that connection is sent in a really crunchy tube. It doesn't encrypt the data in that tube though. And I want to keep saying that because there's a lot of people who say, oh no, the data's encrypted. No, the data's not encrypted. The connection is encrypted. It's going to help you build customer trust. It's going to help you with your security. It's going to help you with your search engine rankings. Honestly, it's something that is an absolute must when you're putting together a website these days, a website or an application today. Okay. Any questions on that one? Anything I've said that you disagree with? Anything I've said that's raised a question that I haven't answered? What are your insights and feedback on this? What's your experiences? You can come across to my community, askcharlyleetham.locals.com, and have a chat about it there. You can always leave comments wherever you are watching or listening to this video. If this video has been useful to you, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to find out when I drop more content. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Bye. Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost. I hope today's episode gave you some actionable insights that will make your business tech work smarter for you. If you found value, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other small business owners who could use a daily boost. For more tips, tools, and resources, visit www.askcharlyleetham.com. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and let's make tech simple together.